Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's mini episode, we kick off 2021 easing into alcohol-free beers and looking at Brewdog's AF offerings and comparing them to their partner beer. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. Hello, beer tasters and podcast listeners. This is Joanne, and I just wanted to give you an overview of what my beer school, Love Beer Learning, can offer you. So at Love Beer Learning, what we want to do is we want to help you build your beer vocabulary, build your beer tasting confidence, so you can post beer reviews with ease and confidence, and so that you can understand exactly what's in your glass and enjoy it every single time. Now, we do that through a variety of ways. One of my ways is Build Your Beer Vocabulary, which is my course. There we will do sensory activities and live tastings. We look at all the major ingredients in beer that influence what you taste and smell and see. Through a sensory experiment, we taste different foods, different spices, different things that are going to calibrate your tasting palate so that when you smell fruit, you know which fruit you're smelling. When you smell spice, you know what kind of spices it might be. And when you think that's malty, what are those malty things that you are tasting? Is it biscuit? Is it cracker? Is it chocolate or coffee? Through a sensory experiment, we will calibrate your tasting palate. I'll also go over some professional beer tasting techniques with you, looking at the appearance of beer, looking at the aroma of beer, and delving right into the tasting as well. And then through live tastings together, we will practice using your palate and using that new vocabulary to explain what is in your glass. And if you think you do that quite well already, then there is also my beer membership, the Beer Tent Society. In the Beer Tent, we look at a different beer style every month. We look at its history, we look at the style guidelines for it, which are a little box that we put beers into, but we can then decide by doing a live tasting and comparing several examples of that style, whether it fits into those guidelines or whether it doesn't, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because sometimes going outside the box is a good thing. By understanding beer vocabulary, by understanding beer styles, you will become more confident in your beer tasting, and you're going to become that beer expert that you want to be. So come join me in Love Beer Learning. If you've got any questions, you can email me at lovebeerlearning@gmail.com or come to the website lovebeerlearning.co.uk to find out more information. I would love to work with you, so come join me today. Now, back to the podcast. Oh, Happy New Year! Yes. First episode of 2021.
Yes, happy 2021. Yeah, I'm honestly, obviously, if you're listening to this, it's our first episode back in 2021. It's going to be hopefully a better year than 2020, although, like I think we said in the end of the year,
let's just not say anything.
Worse, but we're going with it. It's going to be a good year. Everything's going to be good. We're all fine.
It'll be fine.
Things I think planned so far already as well. We've got a lot of really good
yes
beers. We've got, I don't know what we're doing amped up versions of beers.
Yes,
we're doing dry January,
just a bit of contrast for you there.
Yeah, just we can go from one complete extreme to another complete extreme. I feel like that just sums us up really. Lots of interesting things are going to be coming out, I think, and we thought this would probably be a good way to start because it's blending a bit of alcohol with a bit of non-alcohol for people that don't want to totally jump in into the realm of
easing you in.
So yeah, baby steps. Yes, so I have a beer that I'm going to start with. That Joanne,
I haven't got this one because I couldn't find it anywhere. I went on a mission on Saturday trying to get Lost Lager because I put it on my shopping and it didn't arrive. Well, they sent me an email saying, you can't have this. We don't have it. I was like, it's fine. I'll just nip to Morrison's. Morrison's didn't have any. That's fine. I'm going to nip in B&M for something. B&M doesn't have anything. And then I had to go all the way into Canterbury to the little Tesco's, and then I finally managed to get a 4-pack. But checked out the AF offering, the alcohol-free offering in Morrison's. They didn't really have anything either. I should have picked up the Thornbridge one, and I didn't. But yeah, but beer, like, so supermarkets in Canterbury, not the best selection of beer. Just putting that out there.
It's just, yeah, I was getting the messages and she was like, I went to 3 different stores, I'm done. I went to 3 different ones. They didn't have nanny state. None of them had nanny state. And I was like,
I thought it was going to be like 20 minutes, drive to Morrison's, drive back again. An hour later, I'm like, we're going to have to hold off for a second because I haven't lunch yet.
We had to do the, we're delaying what we're doing. Need to have lunch. Yeah, you took it a proper excursion.
Yeah.
This nanny state, I was saying right before we started recording, I've never had nanny state before. The reason we're having, we plan to have nanny state, and I'm having nanny state, is because it was actually the first alcohol-free beer that Brewdog put out, and they did it in August of 2009, and they were using, I believe at the time, Centennial, Amarillo, Columbus, Cascade, and Simcoe hops. I don't know if that's changed since, but that's definitely what was in the original recipe that they put in the recipe book. So I thought it would be good to start off a brief history with having their first alcohol-free beer that they put out. And I cracked it open, having never had it before, never looked at it, nothing, because I've just never been interested. And if you're looking at the video, it's really dark. It's really quite dark compared to what I expected. It's still very clear, you can see right through it. There's bits of yellow towards the bottom of it, so it kind of goes out like a bit of an ombre effect, but it's very much amber at the top before it goes down to like a lighter yellow at the bottom. Absolutely not what I expected at all. I thought it was going to be a lot lighter coloured, and it just wasn't. But the head pour on it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I don't know, for some reason, I don't have much exposure to alcohol-free beers. You probably have had more experience than I have. I've had less than, I can count on one hand, less than a handful of them.
I've had a few.
And I was just expecting the head was going to be not so great, but it poured exactly like a normal beer. So I'm going to take a sip. I'm going to find out what it tastes like.
Well, that colour comes from 8 different types of specialty malts that they use to make it. And so, fun fact, so the thing about alcohol-free beers is, because obviously they don't want the fermentable sugars because they're not going to ferment it that way, they're actually made with more specialty malts than base malts. So when you brew a regular beer, you want like the main percentage to be base malt, and then you add colour and flavouring and aroma with a selection of specialty malts to get the flavours in a alcohol-free beer. They need to use a lot more specialty malts. So there's 8 in Nanny State. Fun fact.
Interesting. That's not something that I knew. So obviously we're going to cover sort of the differences. There's 4, I'm not going to go into detail now, but there's 4 different sort of levels of alcohol-free beer. And that's something that we're going to cover in next week's episode, which is all about dry January alcohol-free beers. So that is something that when I was doing the research for that, I did not know. That was the processes.
That didn't come up.
No, it didn't come up. It was the overview of what it said. That was not one of the things that they mentioned, but admittedly, they kind of just said, here's a bunch of different ways you can do it, including this and this, and that was not one that was mentioned. So that's definitely a really interesting fun fact. So
there you go. What do you think of it?
It's a bit of an interesting one because I don't think it's not in. It's not like one that you drink and you go, oh, it's watered down. It doesn't taste like, there's no flavor here. I think a lot of and again, we'll get into it next week, a lot of the feedback we get is that, oh, it doesn't taste very good. It's not sort of comparable to an actual beer. It tastes watered down. It's, it's no depth there. There's definitely flavor there, more depth than I expected, less watered down than I expected. I can't say it's my favorite taste in the world, but it's not offensive, and I think it does sort of capture an element of beer. But yes, it's interesting because I can't really describe what type of beer it's closest to, if that makes sense. Like I couldn't go, oh, this tastes just like a, you know, maybe with the punk, that'll be different. But it's not like I can go, oh, it tastes like a punk IPA. It doesn't really taste like a lager, but it doesn't really taste like an IPA. It's just, it does taste like, if someone told me it was beer and there was alcohol in it, I'd go, all right, believe it. But yeah, just I guess quickly before we get into the actual fun bit, which will be doing the actual comparison, just a bit of history, a quick history lesson on the Brewdog alcohol-free. So as I mentioned, Nanny State was the first one they brewed in August of 2009. From there, in May of 2019, they released the Punk AF. So that is obviously the partner to the Punk IPA. So I've got the bottled versions, and I think Joanne's got the canned.
I've got the canned versions. I managed to get cans.
Yeah, we've got these two to go through today. So from there, they had all the other varieties kind of coming in after Punk. Punk was kind of the first of the partner range, and they all kind of started from January 2020 onward. So the 6th of January in 2020, Brewdog opened up their first AF bar, well, they're only AF bar at the moment, but that's in Old Street in London, and they boasted about it being the first alcohol-free beer bar in the world. Bit interesting, because when I looked at the tap list, Punk IPA is on the tap list at the moment, and there was a few.
I wonder if they were filling. Because where I visited it in February, I want to say, and it was all alcohol-free beers. There was no alcohol-free, alcoholic beers there at all. But I'm wondering if they're having to fill in, if when it was open, they were having to fill in the slots because other breweries weren't able to provide, because they had guest alcohol-free beers as well, not just Brewdog ones. So I'm wondering if they're having to fill the taps with something else.
Yeah, so basically when I was looking at the history of it and I looked at the announcement for opening, when you look at a photo of it, all the beer on it that was listed on the board was all alcohol-free. It wasn't until I went into the Brewdog Now app and I went, oh, okay, what could I get there? It included Punk, and there wasn't as much of a selection with guest beers as well. And I think in past they've had ciders available, kombuchas available. Like there was none of this. There was no cider available. It was all just on draft. That's it.
I had a cherry kombucha and it was really good.
That's it. That's what I thought was quite interesting, was they included kombuchas and all these other types of AF stuff that was going to be in there. But at the moment, what it's showing is no ciders, there's no kombuchas. There's 2 varieties of takeaway cans, and there's a few different offerings on tap, which is closed at the moment anyways. But I was wondering if that was a COVID thing. But when they were claiming that it's the first alcohol-free beer bar in the world, I'm wondering if that word beer is what I've definitely heard of alcohol-free bars. So I'm wondering if they threw an alcohol-free beer bar.
I think they were chancing, to be quite honest with you. I think they were chancing, because there's definitely been pop-up bars that were alcohol-free before. Whether there's been like
permanent,
we are permanently alcohol-free.
I thought it was a bold statement to say in the world.
Yeah, but like,
I was like, are
you surprised? Are you surprised?
No, I am not. But I thought I would highlight the fact that that's what they were boasting about. And then when they opened that up to commemorate last dry January and the opening of their AF bar, they did what they announced what they were calling a drink all you can Jan, which is when they offered unlimited refills of the alcohol-free beer at any of the Brewdog bars in the UK, and I think some internationally as well. This year, I did see the announcement. It's 25% off the alcohol-free selection on the website. Obviously, I'm assuming that's because the majority, if not all of the bars, I think, are shut at the moment.
They are about to hibernate all of their bars. So, yeah.
Yes. So I think for them, that's the next best thing they can do, or else I'm sure they would have done something in their bars as well. So that kind of happened January of last year. The current offerings that they've got on the Brewdog website are the Punk AF, Lost AF, Elvis AF, Hazy AF, Nanny State, and then they've also got, which I thought was quite interesting, but I couldn't quite get myself to put an order in just for that, was Ghost Walker, which is an alcohol-free IPA collaboration they did with the band Lamb of God. They've boasted actually as well that this is the first alcohol-free collab beer that's ever been brewed. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I was more interested in the fact that it was Lamb of God, and the can art looks really, really cool because you've got the other one we're drinking today is Lost Lager and Lost AF. I've got a mix on these ones. I could only get a jumbo bottle.
Cans for me again.
Just cans for you again.
Yeah, just cans.
Nice big bottle. But these are sort of typically what they look like with the same sort of design. I don't know if you can probably see.
Yeah, so they've got the new shape shield. They are the same. So they're basically the same as the regular. But so looking at Lost Lager and Lost AF, they've made it a bit gold. There's a darker gold on the AF. Otherwise, it looks exactly the same. And on the punk, they have made it paler to differentiate in the blue. Yeah. On the AF punk is paler in colour and the writing is blue, whereas on regular punk, it's a darker blue generally in the design and the writing is black.
On the bottle, the back of the shields is white.
And if you're not looking very closely, and these
different.
You've got a different colour cap.
Yeah, the bottle tops is black for the AF and the normal blue for the normal. So I guess
if you're not looking very closely, and these are close together on the shelf, or while you're picking up a beer, you could pick up the wrong one because they are very similar.
I would say can-wise they are. Bottle-wise, it's a bit easier, but
cans, they look very, very similar. You have
but
to
this
really
Ghost Walker, the can art on it was just very different and very unique, very Lamb of God as well, if you know Lamb of God. And I was like, this is really awesome, but I was like, I just can't bring myself, even with the 25% discount, I was like, I can't bring myself to put in an order just for alcohol-free beer. I might not drink it, I don't know, it's a gamble. But yeah, so then I think outside of those ones that they're offering at the moment, and I will say Elvis AF we just found out the other day that it was up there. Like I've not
had it yet.
No, I've never seen it, and I hadn't until we went to go, what's actually on the Brewdog website, and I went, oh my god, there's an Elvis AF, but I think you can only get it through the website. But outside of those offerings, they've previously offered their own stuff like Wake Up Call, which is a 5% coffee stout. So I think they debuted that at the same time they opened up the AF bar.
So Wake Up Call was supposed to be one of the main AF beers, but they seem to have I believe in COVID times, in an attempt to brew what people are buying, they have they've taken away a mass amount of stout brewing space. And we keep complaining about it because us stout lovers are feeling a bit hard done by because there aren't many Brewdog stouts at the minute available. And actually, I've not managed to grab myself a can of Wake Up Call. And when I went to Brewdog Old Street, it wasn't on because they didn't have any. So they don't make an awful lot of it. I think I did try it when it was in testing phase because I had a alcohol-free coffee stout in Brewdog Milton Keynes, and it was a small batch. So I think I had some of the test batch of it before they officially launched it. But I've not had it since they officially named it.
It sounds really nice though.
It was really lovely.
Really nice. And I'm wondering, I kind of wonder how much coffee like it tastes, because I mean, what is really kind of the major difference between replacing a coffee in, I drink a lot of iced coffee being New England. Kind of, if I'm going to have that in an afternoon as like a filler drink, why not go for an alcohol-free coffee stout instead? Because it's
so the one I had
up and have a
Brewdog Milton Keynes tasted like a Guinness infused with coffee.
Oh, interesting.
It was delicious. So I haven't had Wake Up Call yet. Maybe never at this rate. But,
I hope not.
But if
I was selling it to me though.
Well, I was hoping that I could get it because
Guinness.
I was like, if that's what it was, that was really delicious. I will have more of that, please. And I've not been able to get hold of it.
Well, that's got to be our mission. So first of all, that's definitely got to be our mission. And second of all, I've been told, you might have told Tamsin told me that there's a layer cake on tap at the Brewdog bars. you know, when she said that, I was like, what do you
I know,
mean?
she had it in Glasgow, and apparently
Excuse
that's
me?
missing. Can
Like,
that please?
that
we
again?
want some of that.
Yes, absolutely. Even just do it in a small batch just to see how people get on with it. Because I think they'll find that will be, if it tastes as good as the normal layer cake does, I think they'll find a lot of people will buy that, especially like over the month of January, because that would be a good replacement. So that one I heard was out there, and I was like, I feel hard done by, because I feel like they need to be putting that out there. And then what I also thought was really good was the when Collab Fest was on, as much as it was probably, some people probably didn't enjoy this, they included Brewdog AF as part of the Collab Fest. So the reason I say people probably didn't maybe enjoy it is A, it was a pumpkin spiced beer, which I'm all about, so give it to me.
Me too. Send them my way.
I guess, yeah, exactly. Send us all of them. I was literally like, if you don't like it and you're close enough,
send it to me.
Send it to me, I'll have it. But I imagine some people probably felt a bit like I was paying for X amount of alcohol beers and you've given me an alcohol free. However, I think it was important to include them in there. So I thought it was an interesting choice that they did it, a good choice that they did it. And
Big Drop did Collab Fest the year before as well.
Did they?
And they did. So actually, their hazelnut coffee porter.
Oh yeah.
Originated in Collab Fest, and it went down so well that they now brew it regularly. And it's really good. I had that one was on at Brewdog Old Street when I visited, and it's delicious.
It sounds amazing. When I was ordering, which
give me all the stouts.
I'm not going to get into what we have for next week from Big Drop. But when I was ordering this particular thing from Big Drop, I did see the hazelnut one, but I kind of didn't see it until after I'd put the order in, because I went there for this very specific thing, put the order in, and then as I was doing more research into alcohol-free, saw the hazelnut, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can't believe I didn't add that onto the order.
Yeah, it's good.
Love it. B, I'll probably really like it. Yeah. So I guess that's another one I've got to get hands on. So yeah, at the moment, the last thing I'll just mention is at the moment they what they were currently showing on the draft list, which obviously is closed at the moment. They were showing Lost AF, Nanny State, mixed. It's a mixtape is what they call it, I think, and it's a Lost Lager Radler. So I'm not quite sure what they mixed for that, but that was on there. They did Punk IPA, Lost Lager, so those were all on draft, which is why I was a bit confused, because I was like, there's two normal Lost Lager.
I think they're
but like you said, they're probably filling.
Yeah.
And then they did takeaway cans. They did Punk, Lost, Nanny State, Hazy. Wake Up Call was in a can that you could take away. Which is why I was like, they're definitely brewing it, because that was on their takeaway cans list. And then they had some guest beers from Big Drop and Mash Game. So I think in the past they've also had like cider. Hawks did some ciders for them, alcohol-free ciders, and then the kombucha and the other things. I know in the past I've had Raspberry Blitz from them in cans. That was when I first noticed they were doing alcohol-free, and I actually bought it not realizing it was alcohol-free. So I thought raspberry sour sounds really nice. And then I tried it. I was not a fan of it, and it actually put me off of trying some of the alcohol-free. But that was very, very at the start of when they were doing alcohol-free stuff. So you are without drink. So shall we crack open our punks?
Let's start with the punks. So the Blitz range became the Faux Fox range, and Faux Fox was better. In my opinion.
I did see Faux Fox, but when I went to go, I saw it on tap at Brewdog Reading, and I hadn't realised that was alcohol-free. And then I looked again before I ordered it, and I went, oh, that's alcohol-free. I don't know if I want it. And I thought, oh, the last time I tried an alcohol-free from them, I was not a fan. So, oh no, it's lively. It's just everywhere.
We will cut that bit.
I mean, you can leave it in if you want. Hold on, I'm going to go get a towel.
My glass.
Oh, God, look at the top of that.
Ooh. Oh, you got some yeast going on there, mate.
Yeah, properly yeasty. Anyways, and we're back in the room after my can has properly exploded. That was a lively one. Oh, that's not a clean glass.
Right, so looking at mine, my punk is slightly hazier, whereas my punk AF is completely clear.
Both of mine are completely clear, but I would say my AF is lighter in colour, just slightly.
They're about the same colour. But yeah, I've probably got a bit of hop matter in my punk.
I think for me, the punk smells nicer than the punk AF. It smells more normal in the normal sense of what you expect.
There's something about the punk AF. It smells more limey.
I was just going to say it's citrusy, but not in like a refreshing citrus. It's like a flat citrus. And I would say probably lime sounds right.
It's more watery in the body and not as malty.
I think that's it. The punk has a bit more maltiness in the smell. Yeah, let's see. Let me taste the punk AF. I'm not friends with it at the moment after it's just exploded all over my stuff.
Like it's drinkable. And
there's a lot of citrus that I'm getting and a lot of bitterness, like way more bitterness.
It's much more bitter.
On the back end of that. And
it's like you're not getting the hoppiness from it, I would say, that you get more from the punk. Like I'm finding the resin and the juiciness, not New England juiciness, but there's a citrusy juiciness to the punk that there isn't to the punk AF. It's just citrus.
I'm just finding that just in the aroma alone, the punk AF, it's just flat. Yeah. It's like a muted smell. Like it's
one-dimensional.
Yeah, and it's not coming through like with some beers, you get close to it and it has like a nice smell to it. Like the punk's got a bit of like a sweetness to it because that's the malty quality of it. It smells in the way that you kind of expect punk IPA to smell. The punk AF it just seems really turned down, one-dimensional and turned down so much that I can guess that it's not going to have much flavour to it. Is what I would guess from just smelling it. And it's drinkable. Like you said, it's drinkable, but would I say it would scratch the spot for me of a normal punk? I don't know if I would. I don't know if you feel different, but for me, it's if I want, a pint of punk, this isn't going to cut it for me.
No, but it's more flavourful than, say, any of the alcohol-free lagers that I've had.
To be fair, if for me, I'm going in clean slate, not having had any of those to compare it to, so I don't know how this sits, and I'll be able to find out how it
in a minute
afterwards. But
like I could drink it if I was, designated driver, couldn't drink, wanted a air quotes beer. I could drink this in its place. Like I also am not a massive like soda person because I just find that the fizziness just gets to me over time. So I would drink this over, an evening of Coke.
See, I think I'd prefer a Diet Coke. I think if somebody said to me, oh, like if I went around to somebody's house and I was a designated driver and someone said that I don't have Diet Coke, I've got like someone offered me full fat Coke. I don't really like full fat Coke. So if they were like, got this or you can have an alcohol-free punk, I would go, yeah, I'll have the alcohol-free punk. Or if that's all they had, I'd go, that's fine. But if I went to a pub and they said, you're the designated driver, we've got punk AF and then any other soft drink, I'm probably going to go with a pint of Diet Coke. Because for me, I said it's not so bad that it's kind of like the nanny state. It's not offensive.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the level of the bitterness in this compared with a lack of hops in it, the unbalance between those two things, it's just not to my personal taste. For me, it's too watered down because I like hoppy beers. So when you get something that's turned so much down on the hoppiness, it just doesn't scratch the itch for me personally.
Yeah, I don't mind it, but I'm not a massive soda drinker. My choices would then be water or juice. So if this is an option, I would probably go for it.
To be fair, it's an odd one because if you're bringing juice into the mix or like tap water or something like that, like if I'm literally there and I can't have a Diet Coke and it's juice, I'm not going to drink juice all night, am I? And a water, I get really weird with water. I'm like, is it like what tap is it coming out of? I don't know. So I probably would pick this over juice water, but if I'm offered Diet Coke, I'm definitely taking it. Saying that, I did finish it. I think I'm feeling bitter.
Funny.
More because it exploded on me. Yeah.
All right, so I've not had Lost AF yet.
Saying all that,
You're still sipping away. She's still sipping away on it.
Sipping on the punk. All I'm going to say is, like, when you drink a punk after a long time of not having a punk, you kind of remember why it's everyone's people's first foray into craft beer. It's just refreshing, and I think maybe that's part of it. Is I find that the punk IPA is actually more refreshing. Has more crisp and refreshingness to it, than the AF does.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm really afraid it's going to explode on me now.
Right, we're opening our Lost Lagers and our Lost AFs.
# nervous AF. Oh God. I'm going to sit back like this as well so I can quickly do a runner. Way!
That one didn't explode everywhere.
A good AF. My massive bottle. I feel really light. I feel like I've got even tinier hands with this. Interestingly, I went to go pour this, and I don't know if this is like it on all of them, but on the side, it looks like it's all written in either Japanese or Chinese. It looks like it's written in kanji on mine, on my bottle, and I'm not sure why.
I've got German. And of course, the two alcohol-free ones include lactose.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Both of them do?
Yes.
That I don't get that coming through.
So no, it's literally in there for mouthfeel purposes, because it then gives you a bit more body that your malt would normally.
So so we've just poured Lost. The one, if you're watching the video, the one that I'm holding up now that's in my right hand is the normal Lost Lager. This one in my left hand that I'm holding up now is Lost AF. Just looking at it, they both are crystal clear, light coloured, bit more carbonation bubbles, I would say, in the Lost, and the head pours much better in mine. In the normal, there's basically no head in the Lost AF.
Same with the head. So from cans, my Lost Lager is clear, but there are particles in it that are making it less clear than my Lost AF, which is absolutely crystal clear. It could just be water with a little bit of yellow colouring in it.
Interesting.
It has a huge amount of carbonation bubbles in the AF, but the head retention on the regular Lost is much better.
I would say that my normal is more active bubble wise.
Oh no, see, mine isn't.
But then again, I've got one can, so
my Lost Lager has got smaller carbonations that are continually streaming. My Lost AF has got fatter carbonation bubbles that are just kind of working their way to the top less quickly than the Lost Lager.
I would say actually mine is similar to that, where I poured the Lost first and the AF first, and then I went back for the normal. So probably while the big bubbles were going up in the first go, I wasn't watching them. They smell, I would say that the smell of them is a lot more comparable than the Punk to the Punk AF. These ones, I think there's a stronger smell in the Lost Lager marginally, but they both have a fairly similar and more comparable smell to each other. Whereas I think the Punk IPA and the Punk AF were just, you could tell the difference between them.
Yeah, I've got there's definite that Pilsner grainy smell to them. I would say that the AF is slightly more floral.
Yeah. I think it's also a bit more, I think the AF is a bit more muted as well, though. It's sort of like a similar smell, but not as strong for me. It's the slightly different where there is a bit more floral in it, but I think it's just a bit not as strong hitting me.
So this is really interesting because I'm finding that the Lost Lager is quite bitter, which it should be for the style, for a Pilsner, which is what I don't like about it. And then I actually prefer the AF because it's got a bit more of a creamier taste to it. That would be the lactose.
I would agree that it's a bit creamier, but for me, I'm finding that it still has that watery element to it. And it
not creamy in texture.
Yeah.
Creamy in taste.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying. I mean watery in the sense of I'm getting the creaminess, but I'm getting like if you took milk and then you added water to it. And it's like watered down milkiness is what I'm getting. And it's obviously it's thin, obviously, as you'd expect, but it comes across really bland. And it's just, for me, it might just be my taste buds, and it might just be it's not to my taste because I like hoppier. So for me, again, I'd have it. It's not offensive. But I can understand if there are people out there that like big hoppy beers that are drinking. I mean, it's a lager, so it's never going to be that big hoppy beer. But with the IPA, people that like hoppier beers and they're buying a Punk AF, expecting an IPA substitute, and it's just not scratching that itch for them. I totally get why. Trying them side by side. I mean, they sound similar, they look similar, they do taste.
So with the Lost Lager, I'm now getting more, it's warmed up a touch. I'm getting more of that floral noble hop, German hop.
It does definitely have the
and you don't get that in the AF.
Yeah. I think it is just more classically Pilsner, whereas the other one tastes a bit, like I said, a bit more.
It's got a little bit of that lemony, limey bit to it again.
Yeah. I think as well, the Lost Lager, again, compared to the AF, for me, is more crisp as well. There's more carbon, there's more crispness to it than the Lost AF.
Yeah.
I think maybe if there was a bit more comparable crispy levels, again, I might enjoy it a bit more. Offered it to me and they said you could have juice, you could have full fat Coke, you could have water not out of a pre-approved tap, or you can have Lost AF. I'd go, I'll have the Lost AF. But
would you pre-approve a tap?
I don't know. I just have to see it. I've got to know where it's coming from. Weird. I'm weird.
Brilliant.
I'm funny about my water.
Right, fine.
There needs to be ice cubes in
it. Yeah, see, now I think if I was offered water, juice, or Lost AF, I'd probably go for the juice.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
But I'm not a Pilsner fan.
I was going to say it depends on the juice. Actually, if you were like,
it does depend.
It's a really nice exotic juice. I'd be like, oh yeah, go with the juice. If they were like, here's, I don't know, something not so good, here's pulpy orange juice, I'd be like,
oh no. I don't do bits.
No, I don't either. They were like, here's pulpy juice. I go, I'll take the non-pre-approved tap water, please. If you had to pick though, if somebody was like, look, Joe, you can have Punk AF or you can have Lost AF, which one would you choose?
Oh, hang on.
I should actually do side by side. Let me. I already know which one out of the two.
If I had to pick out of these two, I'd probably go for Lost AF. Because I think it's more like a lager than the AF is like an IPA. Than the Punk AF is like an IPA. Like, because this is just kind of sweet and
yeah.
Whereas this is like the Lost AF is a bit more like a lager, and I'd probably go.
I get what you're saying. It's not when it comes to comparing to its original. Like that's one's gonna be a bit more similar.
Yeah.
Lost AF, but I'll take the not harsh way of describing it. I think it would just be the easier to just neck.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah, whereas I think like the punk AF, the flavours in it, though not comparable in my opinion to a punk IPA, are far stronger than those of the Lost. So I would go with the Lost because I think it would just be easier to get lost in your conversation and not think about what you're drinking.
Yeah, definitely. It's very inoffensive.
However, if you were going to say, well, between those two and Nanny State, I'd probably go with Nanny State because I think it actually tastes, out of the three of these, Nanny State the most like a beer, in my opinion.
I've not had Nanny State in a while, but I remember it being very beer-like. It's got some like it's a bit warm now, but it's got some of those like roastier malt qualities to it, which is maybe why it looks the way it does. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, more comparable to, if I want to scratch an itch and have a beer, that's going to be the one that will taste most like a style of beer as opposed to the other two. But that's just me and my harsh opinion on it. Yeah, no, I agree. If I had a choice, if Nanny State was a choice, I think I'd go for Nanny State over the other two. Definitely.
I still maintain that I'd be quite interested to try the Elvis AF. Like if I didn't have to put in, to get it, you have to put in a bigger, it's part of, I think, a multi-pack, a mixed case of AFs. And I'm like, I don't really need all those. I just want to try one. So I'd be quite interested in trying that and see, because obviously Elvis juice is a bit of an interesting taste, I think, in general. So finding out how they do that alcohol-free would be interesting. And I still maintain I would love to try the Lamb of God one if I didn't have to buy a 4-pack of it, because they do describe it as having all the tropical IPA tastes and everything. So I'm curious how well that is executed, if I'm honest.
Hazy was my favourite. Hazy AF was my favourite. I had that.
That's the other, yeah.
So I had that last Christmas in Aberdeen when we went up to do the podcast in Aberdeen, and that was really lovely. And it is juicy, like a hazy Jane, just alcohol free. And actually, if that was on the table, that would be the one that I would pick. I really enjoyed that.
After we recorded a podcast where that will become relevant.
Yeah.
Why we were discussing Hazy AF. No spoilers in this one. But the way you talked about it was like, actually, yeah, I'd quite like to try that one. But again, it was part of a mixed pack, and I was just like, it just becomes a faff to get. Whereas if I could find just a single can of it, I'd be like, yeah, let's give that a go. But yeah,
single can advocates, single bottle advocates here at the podcast.
I'm always like single can, because my thing is, if they offered single cans of these AFs, you could put an order in with Brewdog, you could try the AF ones, you could find out which style is the one that is going to match you the best, and then you can go, well, I know I like these ones, so let me order these ones. When it's in the mixed case, it's great to get a mixer, that's great. But if you don't like, if I'm going to get, 3 or 4 Lost AFs that I'm probably not going to drink, yeah, you could probably find a way to cook with them or barbecue with them or whatever. But that just becomes more money I'm spending for something I know I don't like. So I think, yeah, very much single cans, not mixed. But that's just me.
And me. That's a whole other subject that we will not stray into today.
And I think if you know where I can get a single can,
let us know
of the Lamb of God collaboration, let me know. Thank you. Find me on Instagram. Cool. Final thoughts.
I think AF beers are getting better, and I think we'll go into that next episode when we do our full AF beer rundown. If these were the only beers that were on offer, all 4 of these, I'd go for a punk. If the 2 AFs were the only ones on offer, I'd go for a Lost AF. If there's cranberry juice on offer, I might go for that. Your final thoughts.
Final thoughts for me on Nanny State is the one that is definitely the most passable, even though it's not flawless. It is definitely passable. For me, the other two don't scratch the itch. I probably wouldn't choose to have either of them. It gives me an understanding as to when people say, when I go out, I'd rather have a low ABV half pint and then have juice or Coke or whatever else than drink these all night. Because, yeah, I think it would get a bit samey and bland and just not enjoyable, quite frankly. But final thought is I do applaud Brewdog for putting such an effort in. I mean, and everyone that puts the effort in, I'm only mentioning Brewdog because that's what we're drinking now, but next week you'll see everyone that's taken the time to put the effort in to create an alcohol-free beer. Well done, because I think it is a section of the market that could be tapped into a bit more. So yeah, I look forward to trying the rest of our alcohol-free collection.
Right, I think that's it for today then. It is a very short episode just for the beginning of the year. We're easing you into 2021. So if our wonderful listeners want to find you and tell you what AF beers they like, where can they get hold of you, Tori?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at adventures_in_hoptimism. So feel free to drop me a line, tell me where I can get a single can of Ghost Walker. Tell me if it's good, if I should just buy the 4-pack, and where can they come and speak to you
if you want to come and tell me where I can get some wake up call. I am a Woman's Brew on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and if you would like to know more about beer tasting, you can find my beer school, Love Beer Learning. We are on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Or you can email me, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. You can also email the podcast there, or come and have a look on my website, lovebeerlearning.co.uk. We have a beer tasting course, Build Your Beer Vocabulary, starting on the 11th of January. So come ask me about that now.
Cool. Until next week when we go all out dry January. Cheers.
Cheers.